talking about gorgeous shows, one of the other shows that is probably my favorite romance shows of all time is Channa Mereya. It is
Uh,
मेरा हमेशा मानना ये होता है कि if there's something established in one genre, then the next project that comes in the same genre should take that genre ahead. और the thing is with romance क्या हो जाता है सर टेलीविजन में एज ए व्यूअर जब मैं देखती हूँ कोई चीज अगर फेमस हो जाती है ना सो देन इट इज डन टू डेथ एज अपोज टू टेकिंग इट अहेड. And with Channa, after a long time, my friend is like, देखो यार तुम्हें पसंद आएगा. And I'm like, when I'm looking at the promos, it is the same thing, right? You have an angry young man, you have a willful heroine, टशनबाजी होती है. Obviously, एक common point of contention होगा, which would be नौकरी related, and वो है इसका ढाबा. तो I'm like, हाँ ठीक है, like I've seen it. Let me see this. And I'm stunned because this is one of the shows for me, and if I'm ever making a little book about Indian romances, Indian TV romances, this show took all the tropes that worked and went ahead with it. In fact, it fixed all the problematic aspects of those tropes. Like, yes, Aditya was aggressive, but that aggression never crossed a boundary. Yes, Ginny is very she lives for the family, but there is also an acknowledgement कि वो इतना जीती है उस परिवार के लिए कि कभी वो ज्यादा प्यार भी is what's blocking her from living her life. There's an acknowledgement of it. It is not glorified that she's sacrificing her whole life for the family and the troubles. And I'm like, ये जो छोटे छोटे nuances थे ना, that really made the show alive. And I think like if I keep on talking about how much I love Channa ये पूरा का पूरा 2 घंटा चला जाएगा with me just being like this show is amazing. ये हुआ था वो हुआ था, but it was a show that um which I rarely get the opportunity to do with Indian TV is sit down with it and chew on the meat and just
hmm.
think about all of the ये like ये films के साथ किए जा सकते हैं as you said with Savarkar, right? उस film के साथ हम बैठ सकते हैं, we can rewatch it, फिर भी देखने में we can get to see another whole layer that we are missing. Like it's like a peeling an onion experience. जितने बार देखोगे
Yes.
नया मिलेगा दिखने के लिए. It's probably one of those shows that gave us everything. रेन सीक्वेंस चाहिए है, अचानक से शादी चाहिए है, मतलब बुलेट हो गया, बुलेट हॉस्पिटल एक्सपीरियंस, प्यार का इजहार. Before I wrap up my praise of this show, the one most beautiful show is the way the I love you sequence was written. कैसे वो पूरा ढाबा जल गया, कैसा Aditya jumped into it, and then he comes out and he just collapses on her feet while saying I love you. The thing is that the beauty of it was यहाँ खेलोगे. And it was such a
So happy you saw that.
it
So
was
happy you felt that, yes. Hmm?
it was absolutely phenomenal. So if you can share anything behind the creation, conception, anything at all.
Oh, we I can share a lot. We can do an entire interview only on Channa Mereya because there is a separate space in our hearts on shows which we feel didn't get their dues in terms of length and everything like that. So anything I say about Channa Mereya, the first person we need to really respect and love for this is actually Mamta Patnaik. I still remember that Ira, who's the programming director, programming head of Star Bharat, she had contacted me कि उत्कर्ष एक ऐसा एक शो आ रहा है, why don't you get involved in it? So I was already writing Ye Rishta at that point of time. So I told her that it will be difficult and all. So I said, I don't think I can do this. So she said, no, no. अच्छा एक काम करो, ममता से मिलो. I had not met Mamta Patnaik till then. So उससे मिलके उसको मना करके आता. That was a very clever move by Ira. Because she knew that when Mamta ji, because both Mamta and Yash, Mamta Patnaik, Yash Patnaik, they make such an amazing force who are creating shows. So she is someone who's also a very passionate person who thinks very clearly at the same time with a lot of depth. So Ira had anticipated it. So when Mamta and I actually met, and we just started discussing generally, and I understood why Ira was so keen that we meet because we gelled very quickly, and we realized that at a lot of places, how romance has to be expressed in a show and all these things. Even unlikely concepts of what is masculinity, what is femininity. We realized that we were on the same page, and then we decided that in a world, and nothing against anybody, but in a very woke world with everything, जैसे सब कुछ जो हो रहा है, let us make a good love story of a masculine man and a feminine woman. Now, इसका मतलब क्या है? फेमिनिन का मतलब ये नहीं होता है कि वो छुई मुई हो गई. फेमिनिन गिन नहीं है. ऐसे नहीं कि वो छुई मुई हो गई, वो कभी आवाज उठा के बात नहीं करेगी. बट शी इज द yin of the relationship. There is a nurturer inside her. एंड ऐसे नहीं कि मैस्कुलिन का मतलब है कि आप हमेशा गुस्सा में रहो, तोड़ फोड़ करते रहो. बट आदित्य के अंदर, इनफैक्ट आई कैन शेयर सीक्रेट विद यू. बोथ ममता जी एंड आई आर our favorite one of our favorite books is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and we actually thought a lot about Howard Roark when we were thinking of Aditya.
Oh.
So although Ginny and Dominic Franklin are nothing to do with each other, but Aditya, see, both of us were clear that in a all the channels are focusing on the girl more. बट एक वो होता है ना कि अब पेंटिंग आपकी सेम रहने वाली है. कुछ लोग लेफ्ट से शुरू करते हैं बनाना, कुछ लोग राइट से बनाना शुरू करते हैं, कुछ सेंटर से एंड ऑल. सो वेरी ऑफन in Indian television, the girl's arc is thought of, and then the show is built around that. For Channa Mereya, Mamta and I, we first discussed the boy's arc. We thought about the boy. What was his background? Why did he become the way he became? And hats off to Mamta ji, the way she was constantly at it and all. Because despite being a producer, like she's a prolific writer, so her idea of thinking, kya hoga, kaise hoga. So one of the reasons I dare say why Channa Mereya touches your heart is because a lot of effort went into character creation of this show, which very often does not happen. So I always like to do, but getting a producer to work with like Mamta Patnaik, the advantage was that she thought exactly like I did when it comes to character creation. So then we never had confusions during episodes of what will Aditya say to something or what will Ginny say to something, because मेरे लिए हमारे लिए वो real थे. So then um, the wound of Aditya, what makes him the way he is? Why is it that so all these qualities, what the way, because we were very clear that we were talking about a masculine character. So he was never not getting into cajoling someone or something like that. Why is it? I'll just say this to you. The scene beautifully in screenplay wise, also I have to mention the team. Like usme, like Garima Goyal Day and Lakshmi, who were involved in the screenplay of that, and the way the entire thing was built, there was a that scene is a big praise for screenplay. That's not written by me. I was thinking more in terms of a broad level character कैसे में क्या है. But the aspect of character that the screenplay writers there caught on is that here's a guy who would never even bow his head. We actually humanize the concept of falling in love. Because for Aditya, that falling in love was the one surrender he was not willing to do. But it's only with that surrender that you're able to reach the peak. Only that falling in love can make you rise to that ultimate experience. And I hope that's what the audience also felt. So that entire part, that जब सब कुछ चला गया, he was like he could have died in that moment. सब कुछ ये हो गया. In the worst possible situation, normally when people will just say, let's get away, they would want to take somebody out on a date and then confess. This is the pain of being Aditya, because that's how he thought. He wasn't a very tactful man. He just saw the world from a very uh, a particular perspective, and Ginni teaches him how to think differently about things. So again, going back to the yin yang or purush prakriti concepts from Rigveda, what happens is, so that's even Shiva Parvati, if you'll see to it, in Ginni and Aditya, because he is Bholenath, he is Rudra. He does Tandav, she does Lasya. She helps him grow, he helps her grow. my problem, and I dare say my advantage, is that since my understanding of mythology works in a certain way, I'm able to utilize that, whatever little I have learned from the scriptures and what I understand, I always put it to practice no matter what I'm writing. Whether it is Yamuna Bai and Swatantra Veer Savarkar interacting, or whether it is Ginni and Aditya reacting, or whether it is, I mean, those who are watching will be like, "ये रिश्ता क्या कहलाता है?" Where even Abhimanyu, Dr. Abhimanyu Birla, that people appreciated a lot, especially the girls, because again, I was doing the same thing. That's a masculine character, and in today's world, I dare say, I don't want to start any mess, but I dare say, what does it mean to be masculine and what does it mean to be feminine is getting a little lost in the political and socio-political arguments of various things. So my secret is this, that be it Mahadev or be it Abhimanyu or be it, in this case, Aditya, okay, in my head, I write with clarity of masculinity and femininity. That's why you like that fire scene so much, because it was nothing but an actual fire where all the complications were burnt away and only love remained.
That's beautifully put. That's फिर से शो देखना पड़ेगा फिर से प्यार में पड़ना that show. I'm like, okay, I have to watch that again from that perspective. There are two things that's so fascinating about this. But before I come back to that, I genuinely connected with you on you saying that, be it whichever pair it is, and coming from a good understanding of mythology, that is, be it Abhimanyu and Akshara, be it Aditya Girni, और इवन लिटरली महादेव, वो जो यिन यांग की जो एनर्जी है, वो दैट यू ब्रिंग इट थ्रू, इट्स बिकॉज one thing that I used to do is whenever I would watch romance shows, in my head, whenever I would look at the pairing, in my head I would try to slot it into, oh, is this Shiv Parvati or is this Radha Krishna? Because I would feel these are the two great templates of romance.
So, as per our scriptures, there are two ways of looking at romance. If I speak in a language that ironically हमारी जो audience जो है वो, मैं अगर संस्कृत वेदों में घुस गया, उससे बेहतर ये प्रेफर करेगी कि मैं ऐसे ऐसे अगर कहूँ तो कि लोगों को अल्फा मेल ये सब समझ में आता है. So there are templates work in terms of, मैं अगर masculine side की बात करूँ तो मैं feminine पे आता हूँ. So there is your definition of alpha male, a very misunderstood concept, but there's one alpha male. So this is where you would be talking about, like, a man who wants to lead, who wants to stay in control. Okay, he will have his vulnerabilities, but the but he essentially comes into the original three P's of masculinity, of protector, provider, and progenitor. Now, with this kind of a person, you have a certain kind of a woman with whom the entire interaction can happen. Then the second one comes is not beta; those are not successful love stories. There's Omega. Omega is Vishnu. Omega is when you're talking about a person who can change depending on the situations. He can lead when required. He can follow when required. He can stay quiet when required. He can become Vishwarup when it required. And with such a person, you need that kind of a girl to be with him who also shifts, who also changes. With the one exception that when you're writing a story of an omega male with a woman, very often, because omega will have masculine and feminine characteristics, it comes from Vishnu, so hence Krishna. So, very often in this dynamic, the girl involved, they'll become like Lakshmi Narayan story or Radha Krishna story, where very often these are the stories where the guy knows an extra secret that the girl doesn't. So there was an old Shah Rukh Khan movie called Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na. It's a very old film, but till date I feel that's his best performance. Okay, in that movie there's that song. "ऐ काश के हम होश में आ ही ना पाए." That song is one of the most beautiful songs to look at, and the reason for that is that Suchitra ji, when she's acting, the girl, when she is acting. Anna is moving in a certain way, and she's the Lakshmi, she's the Radha. But the song, the situation is powerful because when she's not looking at Shah Rukh Khan, just see what intensity we see in his eyes, that romance. This is the second template. This is the Omega male who can fight when required, but he's in love. He loves in a way which is very modern day friendly. That's why Vishnu is Sanchalak. He's present currently. Why there is another angle to Shiv. Shiv is not something just alpha. He is what in modern language जिसको कि psychologists उसको कि sigma male भी कहते हैं. Sigma male is the aloof hero, a hero who has given up on the system. So Aditya has a lot of sigma in him. So very often alpha and sigma को मिला के, because Mahadev की template है ये. Sigma normally is not really like alpha because sigmas are the aloof people. By definition, sigmas would be the guys who would just leave everything and go and live alone. Okay. But when I match alpha and sigma, then you get characters like Aditya. Because in the story, देखो मैं तो तुम्हें सब अपने सब writing के secrets बता दे रहा हूँ तुम लोगों को. In the story, I will find a way to bind the hero in the story. एक anchor होगा जिसके कारण हीरो स्टोरी छोड़कर नहीं जा सकता. वो किसी लड़की के साथ में कुछ प्रॉब्लम में अटक गया है. His maybe his mother is very unwell. Until she's there, he has that responsibility. He will not go anywhere. So you create a Sigma hero who cannot leave. Now think of Aditya and see how he fits into this. Think Dr. Abhimanyu Birla and how he fits into this. Now Akshara ho ki Ginni ho. Notice how this is a person where there is Parvati involved, but there is also a bit of Kali involved. Because Shiv also has to lie down. So Ginni has that edge. ये लक्ष्मी नारायण राधा कृष्ण की कहानी में नहीं होगा. राधा will not become Kali and suddenly like वैसी कहानियां हैं, but because Omega is the guy who's able to handle. But when it comes to Alpha and Sigma that we was talking about, they will have Shiv Parvati. So Parvati कैसी होती है कि there is a time when there is a lot of positivity in a feminine energy in a woman. The more time somebody spends with this feminine energy, कहीं पर मन में एक कंसर्न होती है कि भाई ऐसे इंसान को जब गुस्सा आएगा ना तो बच के रहना पड़ेगा. So that's why when Akshara loses her cool in Ye Rishta, that's our high TRP part. Because this is when Abhimanyu will have to manufacture her. This is when Shiv has to lie down and let Kali put her foot on him. Okay. और in आदित्य गिन्नी's case वो एक काम होगा कि गिन्नी इंजर हो गई कोई प्रोसेस वो सुनाएगी, आदित्य को पूरा सुनाएगी और बाद में आदित्य को एहसास होगा कि गिन्नी was right. So this is how I actually use different characters में. And like this I can actually talk about virtually all the pairs whenever I've written. I mean, I don't know if you're exposed to Saraswati Chandra.
Yes.
Yeah, so when I wrote Saraswati Chandra again, but there was now अब ये एक कुंठित male hero था. There was more sigma than alpha. This was a sigma omega guy. Gautam Roden ने जो बहुत अच्छा play किया था. Because here's a guy who doesn't want to be there. But now Kumud, and so Kumud was more assertive. Okay. So she is more on the front foot, a guy who doesn't want to be there. So that is when what Channel likes to call the impossible love story takes place because that is the dynamic. So I really believe that why romances work and why, although I'm known more for my mythology work and now historical work, but how I understand romance is actually not think about story, yes, but before story, get the dynamics of your hero heroine clear. जब वो अच्छा होता है ना सब अपने आप अच्छा हो जाता है.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because there's always a payoff when that happens.
Hmm.
There's a certain payoff when it comes. And talking about Ye Rishta, one thing I'm very fascinated of late is that, especially from 2020, the past 4-5 years, it is
Hmm.
very difficult.
Sorry to cut you. Just I need you to know this that so I have not written a lot of years तक क्या कहलाता है. The entire Abhimanyu वाला जो leap जो था अक्षरा अभिमन्यु. So I did that leap entirely. I set up both the universes. So
Hmm.
I wrote all the characters because there was a Bengali show called Icche Nodi, which we were told ki isme se. So not taking everything from it because their Anurag was very different from the way Abhimanyu was made. So taking borrowing stuff from there because वो भी star का ही show था. I did that. Then I left after some time. Then when Anirudh बोल रहा हूँ, Abhimanyu, when he comes back, that 1 year leave,
हाँ.
then I rejoined and I wrote for a bit long. But after that, I have left the show. So sometimes till date, both Channa Mereya and Ye Rishta fans, they keep DMing me on Twitter saying कि like Ye Rishta fans, they were very बहुत रूठे हुए थे, बहुत upset थे. I mean, when they're watching, I mean, I really feel bad for them. I'm sorry about it, but they really held it against me that I left the show because I haven't seen the show after that. But I was told by the fans that Abhimanyu's character changed a lot after I left, and he did like I knew something was off because they used to tag me on Twitter, and their tweets would read in the zone of कि Abhimanyu ऐसा कभी behave नहीं करता. Whenever audience is feeling like this means that we are going off character.
Yeah.
So just I needed you to know. So that initial phase and the initial months of Abhimanyu and Akshara, the entire romance of Abhimanyu and Akshara when the leap happened, all that is me. I was involved there. And the excellent two people you have to remember. One is Bhavna Vyas, who's the screenplay writer of the story that I was writing. And second is Garima Dimri. She was the creative director. But in my career, I've not seen someone so intensely obsessed with the show as I have seen the way Garima used to be obsessed with Ye Rishta Kya Kehlata Hai. She's also no longer a part of that show. She's doing other things. But I needed you to know that. So a lot of like कुछ बाद में I found out कुछ एक नया लड़का भी आ गया शो में तब अक्षरा की उससे शादी भी हो गई तो वो सब मुझे पता भी नहीं है. I don't know. I've never seen the show after that. It was very close to my heart, but it still is. But that part which I know, not what happened later. So I just needed to give this disclaimer before we speak about the show. Yeah.
Yes, yes, because नहीं उसके बारे में I had heard about that. I had heard about Twitterati sentiments about you leaving the show and the
Oh, they got me trended. I mean, I trended on Twitter not to write some amazing things and all, but I got trended one day on something because they were like, they wanted me to write Ye Rishta Kya Kehlata. I'm like, see, this is the power of television audience that when they get on with it, they really, really create situations. Yeah.
it is ये मैंने देखा है कि when there is a writer who has really bonded with the character, when they leave the show ना डिफरेंस दिखाई देती है ऑडियंस को समझ में आ जाता है व्हेन देयर इज अ टोनालिटी शिफ्ट हाँ कैसे टोनालिटी शिफ्ट हुआ क्यों टोनालिटी शिफ्ट हुआ कौन जिम्मेदार है ये पता नहीं चलता बट
Hmm.
इट्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइक Abhimanyu feels different, for example, in this case. And it is very much synced up to, I'm not saying you're the one and only responsible for everything,
No,
but
because there's another very important ingredient before you continue. Let's not forget the most important person involved here. That is Harshad.
yes.
Okay, the way that guy really focused on the character. And I mean, I had once tweeted and people were very, like, I had said, I'm like, Harshad Abhimanyu ki ruh hai. And I stand by that. And regarding one more thing that you said about a writer being seen as a hero and all that, there is actually a very, there's a formula that is involved there. That if you look at three mediums, theater, TV, and films, so they say theater is an actor's medium, TV is a writer's medium, film is a director's medium. Why this is said is that in theater, suppose I'm directing, I've written and directed a play, I'm the playwright. You are the heroine of the thing, you're the lead. You see, once you go on stage, I have no control over you. You may decide and change the story of the in that one scene, in one monologue, you may change everything. You are in control, you are in charge. So theater is an actor's medium. Television is a writer's medium. Why? Because it is possible that an actress or an actor, I'm not saying I've done this, but it's possible that an actor and actress is giving a lot of grief to the producers or to the writer or something like that. And then next week, discussing with channel, it is decided that next high point will be that character dies. It's a writer's medium. Okay, he's eventually calling the shots. And in a movie, because there is not constantly something happening. The script is bound. Is that writer ने लिख दिया, actor ने act कर दिया. But director has control over even the edits and the entire flow. He changed everything on the edit floor. He told the editors इसको यहाँ पे लगाओ, इसको वहाँ पे लगाओ. Character गायब हो गए, कोई नया आ गया. So film is a director's medium. So now you know. So yes, in television, writers do have a say. But what Harshad did for this show was incredible. I can't wait to see the journey of this man. Harshad Chopda, uh, like the world needs to be ready for him. I really feel confident that we'll see him in some major Bollywood plays or something like that because he deserves all the success. I have not seen many actors who have worked as hard as him. Pranali is fantastic also. Pranali Rathod, she's did a lovely job as Akshara. But Harshad is very close to my heart because Abhimanyu is very close to my heart, the way it was happening and things like that. So yeah, you're right. ऐसे में होता है. But yeah, Abhimanyu and बाद में even Harshad knew when things were shifting, and you can see that happening on screen.
Harshad is such a good actor. That sometimes the thing about someone being a really good actor is जब वो सामने on screen आता है and you understand that there is a conflict of interest, a conflict of an idea of वो character कौन है, कौन होना चाहिए था और अब किसी भी वजह से क्यों ऐसा behave कर रहा है, it was very painfully apparent.
टीवी में बहुत कम होता है that you have actors जो actually nuances पे ध्यान देते हैं. It's not just delivering the line in a dramatic way or in an emotional way, but looking at layers. Harshad is one of those rare gems who sometimes takes the script ahead rather than writers feeling bad. अरे यार actor ने नहीं किया and all. He would sometimes go above the script. Script is the while writing, we would not think that this scene would be this impactful. But when Harshad say those lines, even Pranali, when Akshara will say those lines, जब एक्टर्स ऐसे करते हैं तो और अच्छा लिखने का मन भी करता है. My way of living life is that even though some things don't go as per the plan, I always like to have the happy memories. So my memories of Ye Rishta are happy memories of initial days, where I also had a lot of free hand. I could write in a certain way, and all those things were happening, and we were able to create again that alpha sigma wala romance with him because uski apni angst hai, but here he's not able to leave. That voice is haunting him, and then he gets stuck.
So the question now that we're talking about ये रिश्ता, बस एक ही सवाल आपसे पूछना था because I like to call this as television का एक रीमेक का दौर चल रहा है. Almost every show, I mean, obviously, pehle bhi hote the regional shows would get adapted from each other and everything, but there were also, I feel there was room for many more original plots. But of late, almost the majority of shows, if not a continuation of their existing plot with another remake, is another adaptation of another show. So, as someone who's written an adaptation, how was it to write something which already had existing characters, existing world setup, existing dynamics? How did you implement that and make, Abhimanyu your own?
Mm, good question. Different writers deal with the situation differently. For example, when Shrimoy was created as Anupama, I was not involved in that show. So there, a lot of high points and everything of Shrimoy were maintained at least in the first year. Then the show, because it became such a big hit, it got its own life, its own thing. Icche Nodi, so the story goes that then moments of Ye Rishta, the second generation, it was evident to the channel and the producer, Mr. Rajan Shahi, that we have to move forward because TRP was moving in a certain way and there were other complications. So there were two choices that either shut down the show or take one more leap. And the suggestion came from channel actually. I can just openly share here that okay, fine. There's a big in our star Jolsha. There is a Ichanodi. So around that time, he called me because Rajan ji and I were trying to work, but हम लोग की ना लाइन नहीं बैठ रही थी. तो यहाँ पर finally हुआ. I saw the show and I realized that it's very different from the Ye Rishta ethos. It's a lovely show, but like, I kind of struggled with Anurag. I mean, I am not saying he's like a. I know that the actor became such a heartthrob with that show, and it all worked out. So no issues about that. But it's just that I felt in my understanding, which is limited. Uh, in my limited understanding, I felt that in Hindi speaking audience, uh, he wasn't hero like enough. So I said Akshara also needs to have her baggage, because at the end of it, if you think about it technically, Ye Rishta connection is Akshara, because she is that lineage. So then we had to be very clear about in terms of characters. That's why Akshara was made vulnerable in a certain way, because you have to create the dynamic. We have to see the families. So basically, what happened is that Akshara's family, they were to anyway continuing. That was the method of Yerishta. They were continuing from the previous season. But Hero's family, if you will see that other than taking number of characters, something from Icche Nodi, we did something on our own because I was given a free space. So basically, I created the family of the Birlas as a show having a family which is built around the hero, Dr. Abhimanyu Birla. So everything was around Abhimanyu. Every character in his family in my head was serving a purpose with Abhimanyu. So the father was someone which when I said it beautifully, such a otherwise such a prolific theater serious actor, it was almost cute to see him getting into that complete daily soap kind of a zone and doing that. But he's a lovely man. So Vinay playing his father, so then our backstories were all clear because everybody has to contribute into making Abhimanyu the way he is today. So his father treats him in a certain way. His Tauji treats him in a certain way. So you need always a hero's friend whenever you make a hero who's brooding. This I had learned this is Saraswati Chandra also, because if I don't, as a writer, I don't like voiceovers. So I don't want him to sit and think and look around and voice ओवर चल रहा है अब मैं क्या करूंगा कहीं ऐसा तो ऐसे ब्रूडिंग हीरोज के बाउंसिंग बोर्ड जरूरी होते हैं then the younger sister, because audience needs to appreciate Abhimanyu as a man, again masculine. His scenes would be written in such a way that we know when we are showing the caregiver, we know where we are showing the Tandav wala Shiv, and we know when we are showing the vulnerable जो कि अपनी माँ की गोद में सर रख के लेट भी सकता है बट देन किसी कोई भी टीवी में सोचेगा वो मामाज बॉय है so whenever whatever I did, because I knew कि इच्छे नोदी का जो हम लोग high point ले रहे थे, that the entire confusion that gets created. I'm assuming that your audience right now knows about ये रिश्ता. So the famous moment where there's a confusion of सगाई, इच्छे नोदी के लिए करना काफी आसान था because इच्छे नोदी was talking about families that they don't talk about things openly a lot. Okay. Now, Akshara's family spoke openly. Normally, वो उनकी ऐसी फितरत थी पहले से. अभिमन्यु की फैमिली मैंने जानबूझ के ऐसी बनाई कि जो confrontationalist नहीं है. So the contradictions were that Akshara was a person who wanted her own space in a world that is non-confrontationalist, and Abhimanyu was somebody who likes to confront, living in a world which is non-confrontationalist. That's why both of them have something missing in their life and their family, and then they come together. हाँ भाई टीवी में भी सोचते हैं हम लोग लिखते हुए so I knew that that confusion will happen, that Abhimanyu means to get engaged with Akshara, but they all think Arohi. But it was very difficult to write because in today's day and age with mobile phones and video calling and everything like that, so it was difficult, but we did pull it off with one major difference. In Icche Nodi, Anurag keeps quiet when that entire thing happens. He just says once that no, no, I meant to. He's trying to say something, and it is. I'm sorry to say, and my apology to all the lovers of Icche Nodi, the way it was. वो उस समय के हिसाब से सही था. But in that, in current time and situation, that he's trying to say not this girl, but he keeps on getting bullied into no, go do that work, do that work. मतलब लाइक जो तमिल में पावम बोलने लगे, बेचारा टाइप हो गया था वो, कैसे बोलेगा, अनुराग ने एंड में तो बोला कि नहीं ये ना, अभिमन्यु का कैरेक्टर ही नहीं था। अभिमन्यु को कोई क्वेश्चन करेगा तो अभिमन्यु तो सुना देगा। और वो तब जब लिख के जब पूरा बना तो अभिमन्यु 2 एपिसोड तक बोलते गए। और उसकी बेस्ट टीआरपीज भी है, क्योंकि पहली बार एक आदमी ने खुल के कहा। एंड देन द एंटायर पार्ट ऑफ व्हेन ही आस्किंग अक्षरा, एंड अक्षरा स्टिल like, so these parts are not in Ichinodi. That the part that first when he tells Akshara to say yes, and why is it that she is not able to? So you for a moment dislike Akshara because you feel bad for Abhimanyu. So now because I want audience to feel for Abhimanyu. And then what do we do next? Next episode was very difficult because it's completely off Ichinodi when Akshara goes to his house. So this is why the characters were different, and this is how I created an entire world of Abhimanyu. And another secret I can share is that actually this again not a secret as such because all writers do this. To make something real, we always put something of ours into the character. So I can shamelessly say that mythological or real, very often I can in secret tell you that this characteristic actually is something I do. And this I learned from Ayn Rand, because once she was asked that what is Dominic like, Dominic Franklin, the heroine of of Fountainhead, and she said, "Oh, Dominic is just me in a bad mood." And suddenly it made sense because that's how she had actually probably written the character that way. So there are things like, for example, Abhimanyu's love for music, when he would like to stun the world out and was like, complete audiophile. That had literally given him a quality I have. The difference is that I have as a music lover. For Abhimanyu, we very strategically used it because it's psychological stand of him getting tired of the lies around him. He wants to shut it all out. And the only hope for him is then the voice that he keeps hearing. This became my one-liner of entering into the romance of it.
It is so interesting, Utkarsh ji, जब आप बात करते हैं about the whole process of each of your characters, so much of your own knowledge outside writing, like, your background in psychology, background in Sanskrit, understanding of mythology, all of it beautifully seeps in into your ultimate characters. So I'm really intrigued to know कि how did you, as a writer, how did this all happen? आपका ये सफर कैसे हुआ? आप वहां से यहाँ कैसे पहुंचे?
अच्छा, मेरा सफर, अच्छा आपकी ऑडियंस सफर न करे इसलिए मैं बहुत डिटेल में नहीं बताऊंगा। आई जस्ट दिस मच दैट माय ग्रेजुएशन वाज इन मैथमेटिक्स। आई यूज्ड टू टीच मैथमेटिक्स in different institutes. And then what happened is I got into advertising. From advertising, I shifted to radio. For about a decade, I was in radio. And my last part, in the middle of all this event, and lived in an ashram for nearly 3 years, came back, continued. My last job in radio was I was national programming head of Big FM, Reliance. And that is when Guzarish, the movie, came and went. It didn't do well, but it was a beautiful, beautiful music and everything. So Sanjay ji se pehchan hui, Sanjay Leela Bhansali se. And he was considering creating a television side of it. So like he's like, why don't you get involved? So then I left radio and I shifted to this. So then I was creative director with him in the movie Rowdy Rathod, and there's some other films also. I was involved in the production house. Then television ke liye, he wanted to make Saraswati Chandra. So I used to meet with writers, briefing what we want. That's how I met all the bigwigs of the industry, all the writers. And Sanjay ji would then listen. He didn't like what they were doing. And the big twist was that one day Sanjay ji saw me explaining the story of Saraswati Chandra to a writer. And Sanjay ji said, in Gujarati, he said, "मेरे Hindi would be कि तू ही लिखना." So I said, I'm not a writer. I've been like a radio guy now. And he said something that changed my way of thinking completely. Sanjay Labhansari said that, see, you've been involved in radio for 10 years. In radio, whenever you're writing, you think of your audience and you have the awareness that they can't see what you're writing, which means your writing should be such that when it's spoken on air, audience को दिख जाना चाहिए. He said screenplay is just like that. You write in a way कि पढ़ के डायरेक्टर को सबको दिख जाना चाहिए. I literally held on to this like a guru mantra. उसके बाद में when I got involved, so then Saraswati Chandra, then finally I only started writing it and all. And then when Devogadev Mahadev happened, I understood because the challenge of that channel feedback and all this was very difficult. Devokadev Mahadev was such a lifesaver. Otherwise, I wouldn't have survived in the industry. I suddenly started doing shows जहाँ पे feedback नहीं मिलता था. So once in an interview, I was asked that, "Do you love mythology?" I'm like, "I do, but it's not that I'm doing it because I'm so obsessed with it. I love other genre also, but mythology में advantage ये है कि feedback नहीं मिलता because half of the time people don't understand मैं exactly क्या लिख रहा हूँ. वो उनको ये पता TRP आ रही है तो if they give me feedback कि इसको change कीजिए, so then I'm able to say I can't change this, look at this Puran, look at this so so that gave me a space where I didn't have to write sort of a type of television, and yet I was able to get paid well, get respected, and most importantly do the kind of writing that gave me satisfaction. So that's what happened. And then things were moving forward very often. That was happening. And then finally it came towards this angle. उस time में महेश जी direct कर रहे थे पहले. I was actually, there's another movie called मैं अटल हूँ. I was involved in that as well. So on screen, my name came in मैं अटल हूँ before Savarkar. But there I had differences. So after doing the research and the story of it, um, I didn't agree with the changes, and I had again like it happened in Irish also. My mother was not keeping well, so I stepped out of it. I was out of Atal completely. But then what happened is that then Savarkar was getting created, and I got involved. And yeah, I hope I have a future where I'm able to say that rest is history.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is how I landed up in here where I am.
So one thing I want to ask, you don't have to select, but what are a few films or TV shows or books, anything that anyone should read or watch or view to understand writing?
Avoid books. Um, I know there are courses of screenplay writing and all. I never recommend those books because you should read books when you're thinking of writing a novel. Even then, you should read all books and things like that. In my humble opinion, in short way, I can tell you that whatever you're doing, whichever medium you're working on, learn from what has happened already. The world is your oyster. Netflix is your oyster. Amazon Prime is your oyster. Okay, just watch everything. And one exercise that I make students do when I'm teaching screenplay is that a lot of filmmakers have been kind enough to release their scripts. Okay, in India it happens rarely. Anurag Kashyap has done that. Some Rajkumar Hirani has done that a few times. So those scripts are Three Idiots script is available. Lage Raho Munna Bhai script is available. Similarly, Gangs of Wasipur script is available. You can buy books which has the entire script. So then what I do is that I very often make students watch scenes. I ask them to write the screenplay of that and then show them the actual screenplay, and that's how you can learn. This is a method, in my humble opinion, in last decade, what I have seen work the best in students, rather than read said field books and all those things, because it will give you gyan, not practical knowledge. And one very important thing, mentorship. I really believe that writing you learn much faster when you read learning under someone rather than just sitting outside and all. So in today's world of high strung egos, if a person can put ego aside and just get involved in the project or something, in television moving forward you can earn a lot of money, but initially not think of money so much but think in terms of what can you learn. That's why I don't recommend courses for screenwriting, because unless the institute is calling teachers who are also current writers, it's dangerous to learn because it's an ever changing world. um, uh, I'm watching some scenes of three body problems, which was not approached earlier. I dare say, when you will watch the film, that there's some kind of screenplay twist that I've been able to do in Swatantra Veer Savarkar that is not done in Bollywood generally. So always then learn from current people. That's why classroom learning is not very good for writing. That's the irony. That's the first thing I say, even if somebody wants to learn from me, I always say that please understand that you have to teach yourself. I can only facilitate it. So when I'm saying what to watch, I can say things like I can only share what inspired me because otherwise I mean literally राइटिंग की अलग अलग जॉनर होती है ना, उनका अलग 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 ग्रामर होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप रोमांस लिख रहे हैं तो उसका एक तरह का ग्रामर होता है. अगर आप थ्रिलर्स लिख रहे हैं, अगर आप हॉरर लिख रहे हैं उसका ग्रामर अलग होता है. अगर आप फैमिली ड्रामा लिख रहे हैं उस बाय ग्रामर व्हाट आई मीन इज दैट द लाइक व्याकरण जो होता है इज अबाउट क्या करना है क्या नहीं करना है, व्हाट आर द रूल्स. Similarly, when I do's and don'ts, yum niyam of all that is happening in writing. So when someone asks me that what should I watch, so I ask them as a counter question. First, tell me which are your favorite shows or films, because based on what answers they give me, I will tell them what to watch. Because most important thing about writing is that you have to look after your own enthusiasm. There is no worse person on the planet than a writer who has lost his enthusiasm to write. If you love romance, don't just because somebody's asking you to do horror, don't get into that, and vice versa. Like I have turned down more daily soaps, and I don't know how many writers can say that because I learned very quickly. I wrote for 6 months in 2012. I wrote a show called Diya Aur Baati Hum. मैं 6 महीने में समझ गया कि एक हद के बाद में मैं सूरज संध्या के रोमांस को मैं समझ सकता हूँ, पर घर पे जो कांड हो रहा है वो मुझे आई एम नॉट गुड एट इट. So, and I also took a conscious decision that I don't want to become good at it because I could see that there was, for lack of a better word, a bit of selling of soul involved there. You have to think in a different way altogether, not be realistic. Imagine only drama, not realism. That's the mytho worked for me because people say, "But वो कहाँ real है?" नहीं, मेरे लिए real है. So that's why it works for me because that's all that matters. Do that excites you, and you'll end up writing something that excites others.
थैंक यू सो मच उत्कर्ष जी फॉर योर टाइम. आपसे जितना भी बात किया जाए उतना कम है. I honestly feel I've learned so much, gotten such solid advice for you,
Wow.
and I think everyone who's interested in writing, the world is yours, the world is your oyster. Hearing such words is just the right level of motivation that we need. And apart from that, congratulations on your on the movie. It's going very good. We are all really excited to see what other projects you do. But thank you so much for your
Yes. Thank you so much. And to all the viewers of Traumas and Dreams, please go to your theaters and watch Swatantra Veer Savarkar. The movie needs your support. बाद में OTT में देख के everybody will say nice or not nice or something, but a lot of effort has gone into it. बहुत मेहनत की है, and we really love it. Even if you want to troll the movie, troll it, but after watching it, because without watching something, criticizing it doesn't make sense. So please watch the film, and well, I'll be happy to hear. In Twitter, my DMs are always open. I don't keep them closed. So please feel free to give any feedback, even if you hated it or something like that. Feel free to tell me that, but after watching the movie.